You're here because something doesn't feel right. You haven't heard from her. No calls, no messages, and yet, she didn't block you. She didn't delete your photos. You still see her online. She's still there, quiet. And now, your mind is filled with questions. Is she over me? Or is she waiting for me to reach out? Men today are lost in the silence, trying to make sense of confusion, uncertainty, and emotional games. You want clarity, you want to keep your dignity, and you don't want to lose yourself, chasing something that might already be gone. That's exactly what this video is here to help with. Support this channel if it helps you, because by supporting it, you're helping other men find answers during their most confusing emotional battles. You're not just helping yourself, you're building a brotherhood. Let's help more men hear what they need to hear when they need it most. Understanding emotional silence. It's not always rejection. When a woman suddenly goes quiet, many men jump to one conclusion. She's done with you. That's it. It's over. And that reaction? It comes from fear. It comes from the anxiety of not knowing where you stand. But silence isn't always a signal of the end. Sometimes it's something else entirely. Sometimes silence is her stepping back, not to disappear, but to observe. It's her way of watching who you are without the comfort and consistency of her attention. And this silence isn't empty. It's filled with meaning, strategy, and emotion. She might still care, but she doesn't want to show it first. She might still miss you, but pride, fear, or uncertainty is holding her back. So she chooses silence. Why? Because silence gives her power. It gives her space to see how you act when she's no longer constantly available. She wants to know, will you reach out, will you chase, or will you pull back too? Now, think about the patterns you've seen in real relationships. When someone wants absolutely nothing to do with you, they remove you completely. They delete your pictures, they block your number, they make it impossible for you to see anything about them. They don't want you lingering in their life in any form. That's what a final decision looks like. That's what emotional closure often sounds like. It's loud, dramatic, and clear. But what if none of that happened? What if she's still there, digitally visible but emotionally distant? What if she didn't block you, didn't unfriend you, didn't delete your photos together, didn't stop you from watching her stories? What if she even dropped a quote about heartbreak or a nostalgic post from the past? That's not forgetfulness, that's calculated. It's a subtle signal. She might not be saying anything, but she's leaving traces. And those traces are invitations, not for you to chase blindly, but to recognize her emotional presence. Her silence isn't rejection. It might be a test of your emotional strength. It might be a message written in absence instead of words. She's asking without asking, who are you without me? What do you do when I'm no longer in your inbox? She's stepping back not to end the chapter, but to turn the page and see what kind of story you'll write next. Some women use silence to protect themselves, others use it to provoke clarity. Either way, it's not just an absence of noise, it's a form of communication. And as a man trying to understand this silence, your job isn't to panic or react out of desperation. Your job is to interpret, observe, hold steady. This kind of silence is a mirror. It shows you where your insecurities are, how quickly you seek validation, and whether your identity depends on her responses. It gives you the chance to grow, not just to win her back, but to understand yourself deeper, because the man who grows stronger in silence is the man she'll either respect again, or the man who won't need her validation to feel complete anymore. This part of the journey is hard, but it's necessary. And if you sit with it, if you really absorb the meaning behind the silence, you'll discover more than just her intentions. You'll discover the next version of yourself, one that isn't defined by her attention, but by your presence. Strategic silence versus real rejection. Not all silence is created equal. One form of silence comes with complete closure. It's the sound of finality. The other, it's calculated, intentional, and layered with emotional complexity. That's the silence of strategy. And understanding the difference between the two could save you from making some of the worst emotional mistakes a man can make. When a woman truly decides to end things, her actions speak with conviction. She blocks you, deletes every trace of your presence. She wipes the photos from her phone, scrubs you from her social media, and makes it clear. There is no next move. That's real rejection. It doesn't leave you with questions. It answers them in full. It's direct, and it often feels cold because it's meant to create distance that can't be misread. Strategic silence, on the other hand, is a psychological test. It's not designed to push you away completely. It's designed to pull you in without words. It's the door that's left slightly open, the light still on in the hallway. She didn't block you, she didn't remove your number, you still see her posts, and sometimes she still views yours. She might even engage with you subtly, liking a photo here, watching your story late at night, posting a quote that feels like it's aimed at you. And yet, she says nothing. That isn't by accident. That is intentional emotional positioning. This kind of silence is deliberate. It's not passive. She's not forgetting about you. She's watching. And more importantly, she's waiting. She wants to see what you'll do in her absence. Will you spiral and start messaging her in desperation? Will you beg for her attention? Will you blow up her inbox trying to fix something she hasn't even clearly broken? Or will you remain centered, composed, unshaken by the sudden emotional distance? This is a power move. Whether she's doing it consciously or not, she is creating an emotional gap to see if you'll fill it. The silence isn't loud, but it's loud enough to make you notice. It keeps you in a state of reflection. You start wondering, overanalyzing, questioning if she misses you or if she's moved on. That uncertainty can push a man into panic if he's not grounded. And that's the real test here, not of your love, but of your self-control. She's looking at how you manage the emotional tension. Do you need her attention to feel whole? Do you crumble the moment she pulls away? Or do you stay steady, calm, composed in the face of confusion? If she left completely, if she slammed the door, you'd have your answer. But by leaving it slightly ajar, she's put the ball in your court. And here's what most men get wrong. They think that open door is an invitation to rush in. It's not. It's a trap. Because if you walk through it too quickly, if you react emotionally to a silence that hasn't been broken by her words, you're proving that you are ruled by need, not presence. So here's what you do. You acknowledge the door, but you don't walk through it. You see the signs, but you don't chase them. You recognize her silence for what it is, a test of your frame, your patience, your clarity. You pass that test not by reacting, but by reflecting, by continuing to live, build, focus, and grow without needing her to narrate your story. That's how you turn her strategic silence into your personal strength. Because the man who can hold himself steady in the middle of emotional uncertainty becomes the man no woman forgets. Not because he chased, but because he didn't flinch. The psychology behind the waiting game. A woman's silence during a breakup or emotional distance isn't always about punishment or cruelty. In many cases, it's deeply rooted in fear, uncertainty, and a desire for control over a situation where she feels emotionally exposed. The game she seems to be playing might not even feel like a game to her. It might be her only way to protect herself from vulnerability. And as men, we must learn to see beyond the silence and understand the emotional engine behind her behavior. Because once you understand it, you no longer fall for the traps. You move with intention, not confusion. Human beings crave connection, but at the same time, we fear rejection. We want to know that someone values us, but we don't always want to take the risk to find out. This is especially true after conflict, emotional withdrawal, or an ambiguous ending to a relationship. She may still care deeply. She might even be thinking about you every day, but the fear of hearing something she doesn't want to hear, like you've moved on or that you don't care anymore, keeps her silent. So, what does she do? She communicates in code. Instead of saying what she feels, she posts a quote that's loaded with meaning. Instead of messaging you, she watches your stories. Instead of texting, she lets a song with heavy emotional weight do the talking. These are not random actions. They are subtle emotional gestures designed to create a presence in your mind without her needing to be the one to reach out first. This behavior is part of a psychological tug of war. On one side, she wants to reach out. She wants to talk to you. She misses the connection. On the other side, she fears appearing needy or desperate. She's scared that if she texts and you don't respond the way she hopes, it will hurt more than the silence she's holding on to. So she stays in between, reaching out with breadcrumbs instead of words, making sure you still feel her presence without forcing vulnerability. That internal battle is her way of shielding herself. She's giving herself a sense of safety while still satisfying the need to stay connected. Even if that connection is vague or unspoken, that's why so many women choose to leave emotional traces. things that keep them visible to you without committing to an actual conversation. It's her shield, her protection against disappointment, her way of hoping you'll make the first move, not because she wants to control you, but because she doesn't want to feel the sting of rejection again. As a man, this knowledge gives you power, not to exploit her emotions, not to play the same game, but to understand the emotional climate you're standing in. When you realize she's torn between missing you and protecting herself, you gain perspective. You stop taking the silence personally. You stop reacting emotionally. You stop making decisions from a place of need and start acting from a place of strength. And here's the real beauty of understanding this. When you truly get it, you stop asking, why is she doing this? And you start asking, what kind of man do I want to be in this moment? That shift changes everything. It puts the control back in your hands, not over her, but over yourself, over your thoughts, your actions, your emotions. You become the man who sees through the emotional fog and walks forward with clarity and calm. This is what it means to be emotionally intelligent. It means you're aware of the push and pull happening on her side, and you refuse to be pulled into an emotional reaction. You don't chase, you don't punish, you don't pretend to be unaffected. You observe, understand, and make your decisions based on peace, not pressure. Because at the end of the day, the waiting game isn't about who texts first. It's about who holds their frame, who keeps their dignity, who leads with presence rather than panic. And the man who can do that, who can walk through this psychological maze without losing his sense of direction, becomes a man she never forgets. Not because he tried to win her back, but because he was strong enough not to need her to feel whole. The Stoic response. What not to do. This is the stage where most men, even the strongest ones, lose their ground. The moment she pulls back, they feel a sharp wave of panic. The silence becomes unbearable. It starts whispering lies. She's gone for good. You messed up. You need to fix this right now. And under that pressure, they break. They reach out, often too soon, too much, and too emotionally. They overanalyze every last interaction, trying to reverse engineer what went wrong. They craft long, emotionally loaded messages trying to explain themselves, trying to reconnect, trying to repair something that hasn't even been clearly defined as broken. And in doing so, they lose the very thing that attracted her in the first place: stability. What separates a Stoic man from the rest is not how he feels, but how he responds to those feelings. He still feels the same pain, the same confusion, but he doesn't let it govern his actions. He doesn't seek comfort in reaction. He seeks clarity and patience. He resists the urge to demand closure from someone who hasn't offered it. He doesn't go chasing answers from someone who's gone silent, because he knows that silence is, in itself, an answer. And that answer is, wait, observe, reflect. A Stoic man never sends a wall of text just to get a response. He doesn't make emotional confessions just to break the silence. He doesn't fall into performance mode, trying to become what he thinks she wants in order to win her back. Because he knows any attempt to regain someone's attention through emotional desperation will only cheapen his presence. He understands that true value doesn't need to beg for recognition. It demands it through stillness, consistency, and purpose. The modern world has taught many men to associate validation with response. If she replies, she cares. If she ignores, it's failure. But a man grounded in Stoic values knows that response is not the metric for worth. His worth is independent of someone else's reaction. He doesn't let someone else's confusion create chaos within himself. Her silence does not define him. His reaction to it does. Your reaction under pressure will always reveal your character more than your words ever could. If you collapse, if you chase, if you start explaining without being asked, you're signaling to her that you're not in control of yourself. You're letting her silence write your emotional story. And worse, you're putting the power of your peace in someone else's hands. But when you choose to hold your frame, to remain composed, focused, and still, you communicate a deeper strength, not through words, but through presence. You become a man who doesn't flinch at uncertainty. A man who doesn't demand clarity, but lives with such inner clarity that he no longer needs it from others. And that energy, that calm in the storm, that's what makes her notice. That's what makes you unforgettable. Because the truth is, people are always watching, especially in silence. And when she sees that you didn't spiral, that you didn't come running, that you didn't fall apart, that you simply stood tall, lived your life, and kept growing, she'll feel it, even from afar. That's when silence speaks louder than any text ever could. And in that moment, the power shifts. Not in a manipulative way, but in a natural, earned way. Because while she withdrew to test your depth, you showed her that your strength runs deeper than her doubts. That you don't need constant validation to remain grounded. That even when everything feels uncertain, you are not. And that, more than anything, is what makes a man truly powerful in a world full of noise. Signs, she's still emotionally connected, even in silence. Silence doesn't always mean absence. In fact, some of the loudest emotional signals a woman can send happen when she says absolutely nothing. And if you know how to observe, not chase, not overthink, but observe, you'll start noticing the subtle signs that she's still emotionally connected to you, even in her quietest moments. A woman who's completely detached will disappear in every sense. She won't watch your stories. She won't like your posts. She won't engage with your presence online or offline in any way. But when she's still emotionally connected, when there's still a part of her holding on, you'll feel it in ways that aren't spoken. You'll see the breadcrumbs she leaves behind. And they won't be random. Start with something simple. She views your story. Maybe not every day, maybe not right away, but she's there, quietly watching. Her profile shows up at the top of your viewers. It's not a coincidence. Algorithms aside, there's a pattern. She's checking in, not openly, not confidently, but emotionally. She wants to know what you're doing, where you are, who you're becoming without her. Then you notice something else. She likes an old post, one from weeks ago. One that means something. Maybe it's a picture of you traveling. Maybe it's a quote about strength or healing. Maybe it's a post where you seemed at peace. That like? It's a digital tap on the shoulder. It's a way of saying, I see you, without having to say anything more. She's making herself known in the most subtle way possible. And then come the indirect messages, the posts she shares on her own page, the ones about love lost, about someone worth fighting for, about emotional distance. You recognize the tone. Maybe it's a lyric from a song you both used to play late at night. Maybe it's a quote from a movie you once watched together. Or it's a caption that sounds like it's been pulled from your last conversation before things went silent. None of that is random. Women are emotional communicators. Even when they don't speak, they often express what they feel through the things they show. If she posts a sad quote, it's not just a pretty sentence, it's her way of externalizing what she's internalizing. She may not have the courage or clarity to reach out directly, but that quote, that lyric, that throwback photo, those are all signals, echoes of a connection she still hasn't fully let go of. But understand this, she's not doing it to be obvious. In fact, the strength of these signs lies in their subtlety. They give her the ability to express emotion without facing vulnerability. She wants you to notice, but not call her out. She wants to stay in the shadows of communication, where she can still feel close to you without the risk of rejection. It's emotional proximity without the commitment of interaction. So, what do you do with these signs? You notice them, but you don't chase them. You don't double text. You don't screenshot and send a cryptic message in return. You simply understand, this woman is not over you, not completely. She's not ready to reconnect, but she's not ready to disappear either. She's in between. And that space, that in-between space, that's where most men lose their power, because they try to fill it instead of respecting it. You're not supposed to fix her silence. You're supposed to learn from it. Let it show you where she stands without forcing her to explain herself. Let her actions speak, and let your reaction be strength, not emotion. Because when you can see the signs and still stay centered, you're not just showing discipline, you're showing value. You're showing that you're not desperate for attention, but aware of energy. And that kind of awareness, that's unforgettable. That's what makes you stand out, not as a man chasing, but as a man who's mastered the art of watching without wavering. Who you become is everything. Silence has a way of exposing everything we try to avoid. It peels back the distractions, the temporary feelings, and the illusions we create to feel secure. When she goes silent, it feels like a part of your world has paused. You keep checking your phone, hoping to see her name pop up, hoping for a sign that she's still thinking about you. But nothing comes, just silence. And in that silence, you start to realize, this isn't about her anymore. This is about you. Who are you now that she's not speaking? Who are you when no one is applauding, comforting, or guiding you? This is the question that determines the man you will become. Do you fall apart in her absence? Do you let her silence become your identity? Or do you rise, not just in spite of the silence, but because of it? Do you use this as your moment of transformation? The man who learns how to hold peace in the middle of uncertainty becomes unforgettable. He doesn't flinch when the world pulls away. He doesn't need reassurance to stay grounded. He doesn't beg for someone to return just to feel whole again. Because he knows his value doesn't increase or decrease based on another person's attention. It remains constant, carved into who he is, not what he receives. You see, if she truly valued you, if there's still a part of her that feels your presence, your silence will echo, louder than any message, louder than any desperate call or text. That quiet confidence, that steady posture, it speaks volumes. And if she's watching, and chances are she is, it will hit her. Not because you tried to manipulate her into feeling something, but because you didn't have to. Because you chose strength over strategy, presence over performance. But what if she doesn't come back? What if this really is the end? That's where most men get stuck. They hold on, not because they want her, but because they don't want to lose what they think they need. But the truth is, if she never returns, you still win. If you use this journey to become more. Because what you gain through this process, that's yours forever. The confidence you build when no one is clapping. The discipline you develop when no one is watching. The emotional strength you forge when the only voice you hear is your own. That's the kind of man who becomes unstoppable. That's the kind of man women remember, admire, and in many cases, regret walking away from. So, don't focus on her next move. Focus on yours. This is your moment to either repeat the past or reshape your future. And the best part? Who you become in this silence, no one can take that from you. Not her, not anyone. Because it wasn't given, it was earned. Through nights of uncertainty, through mornings of self-doubt, through choices made in private that turn into strength in public. You don't need closure. You don't need validation. You don't need her to define your next chapter. You need clarity, you need courage, and you need to believe that what you're becoming is far more powerful than what you're leaving behind. Because once you've tasted your own strength, there's no going back. You won't beg again. You won't chase again. You'll walk forward, not because you forgot her, but because you finally remembered yourself. She made her move. Silence. Yours is not to react emotionally. Yours is to respond with character. Every man watching this has two paths. Chase what's unclear or build what's unshakable. Choose the latter. Become the man she regrets leaving. Or, better yet, become the man who no longer waits for uncertain women. Drop a comment below. Unstoppable. Let me know you watched to the end. Let's separate the boys from the men. Support this channel. If it helped you today, it can help someone else tomorrow. Someone lost, someone hurting, someone like you were just minutes ago. When you support this channel, you make it possible for these insights to reach more men. You're not just changing your life, you're changing lives. Stay present, stay powerful, stay you.